Every 100 years or so, on Halloween night, havoc is unleashed by evil creatures in silent flight. Unsuspecting families hear a tapping at their door, a gentle rap-tap-tapping, foreboding doom forevermore. A visit from the Croven. Can you survive? The answer's maybe. But whatever you do, never let it in. Don't feed the zombie baby! I got these babies at the Family Dollar store. It was actually a 2-pack for $5. What I'm doing is removing the heads. So I have 2 of these here. And I got this package from Michael's. These are some sort of zombie baby looking heads. And what I'm doing is I'm going to cut out this so that I can put it on this body. So here's what I've already cut out. I can put it on the baby doll body, and there we go. Painting the hands and the feet to match the head. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Stella acrylic paint that I found at Hobby Lobby. Just pour a little bit in, and we're going to have to do this in coats, because otherwise it doesn't cover really well, and you don't want to do it too thick. So the first thing I want to do is cut out a strip of this fabric. It's a really cool fabric that I've had for a couple of years. Originally used it on a costume, and I've slowly been using it up on different projects. Sort of reminds me of mummy bandages that have the idea of something old or distressed without it actually being old and distressed, a polished distress. So this is another fabric that I cut strips out of that has just a little bit of a sparkle to it, but not too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by wrapping this fabric around my monster baby, sort of as a base. Just a little bit of hot glue. I'm going to start around the legs and work my way up. Oh look, sort of like a sumo wrestler diaper. There, he actually doesn't look too bad. He's mostly covered. And I like where that gray shows a little bit, but it probably won't in a minute. So let's see what happens once we start using our bandage material. Let's see, I want to make sure that the neck is fully covered. A little bit of coverage around the head. There. I think appropriately spooky. I'm going to go to my little zombie babies, and I'm going to add some of this on my zombie babies because a little bit of sparkle never hurt a baby. I'm going to go ahead, add some of this because it looks a little bit like moss. It'll give them some highlights, getting my little zombie babies into their little knapsack bassinets. And what I'm doing is I'm going to entangle my little zombie baby in this. So I'm bringing strands of this stuff around and twisting them and wrapping them around his legs, his head. This, in a way, sort of represents brain matter. And as we know, all good zombies eat brains. This really cool fabric that I bought a number of years ago for a costume project. It was used for The Witch's Cape in Into the Woods, and it already has this distressed, faded look in it. And then it has all of these really cool little noodle type pieces of fabric, which sort of lend themselves to this really distressed look without actually being distressed. It's kind of the way I feel about home furnishings and antiques. I want it to look old, but I don't want it to be old. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and around his head. We want to make sure he's securely in there, and I'm bringing this around, and I'm actually weaving these parts through the ties as well. I want to make sure that everything's pretty well secured. This one looks pretty good in his little swaddling wrap. And what I'm doing is I am knotting these again about where the bird is going to be holding onto them. So the last thing I'm going to do is add a little gloss to a few spots on my little zombie babies. I'm going to go ahead and paint over their black eyes with a little bit of acrylic, a little bit sort of pouring down out of their mouths. I think I'll go ahead and do this rather generously. Maybe a little bit out of the corners of their eyes too. What that'll do is give them that glossy zombie stare with a little bit of drool. So I thought I'd show you how these come packaged. So the wings come packaged separately from the body of the bird. Here is the body. And I've seen these crows and or ravens at some of the craft stores, and honestly, they are not nearly as impressive as these guys are. They're just so impressive because they're really big, really good feathers, really good coverage, all the things that I look for. So I'm going to show you what you might be able to see here is I have these appliques that are pinned on, show you where these appliques came from. I got this fabric at Joann's, which was a really cool Halloween lace. I'm cutting out these skulls individually and using them as appliques. I found these masks, they're little Halloween masks at Family Dollar for Halloween, and they were $1 a piece, which is great. And this is apparently a fox. Pretty cool. Cut them in half. I have 3 of them because I'm doing 3 crows. So I have my skull appliques. I have my little wing appliques. I poured some of my Elmer's glue into my little handy plastic reused multiple times tube. And I'm going to go ahead and start. I've got my glitter right here. And I'm using an old paintbrush, which I like to do. I'm going to go ahead and paint more or less along the design of the wing. And this is kind of a square, well, it is square. It's a square glitter that I've literally had since 1995 when I did some costumes for the State Fair of Texas. Pretty simple. I've gone ahead and done that wing and do this wing. Make sure that I get more or less the same look and pattern in it. Being pretty generous with my glue. And you can see I've got one of my boxes here that I get from Costco every time I go shopping because I will use these until they fall apart. Okay, so both the wings are done. I'm going to go ahead and put some glitter on his breast, his chest, under his chin. I have given this glitter a pretty good amount of time to dry. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some highlights with a different color glitter. In the center of this here, I'm going to just lightly sort of add a little bit of glitter. What I'm using is this really great iridescent glitter in this cool green. So one of the things about this that's so cool is that it's a very transparent glitter. It gives you some coverage, but you can still see what's underneath pretty well, unless you do a lot of layers. But what you can see here is it'll sort of highlight behind this applique here. So it gives it a little bit more depth and interest. Time to glue on the appliques. So I have placed them, and it's a little bit easier to see where I want them to go. So now I'm going to glue my skulls in place. And I know I want to place him under his neck on his chest, making sure that I am getting this as even as possible. I'm going to need my pliers here. Usually these things aren't so difficult to get out. What I'm going to do is I am going to tape these guys down so that they're curled. I'm going to use my heat gun to sort of soften up these talons of the bird holding something. And I'm going to go ahead and start heating this up. Actually, just a few minutes ago, this little talon was sticking straight out and flat. There's still a little room to shape as it cools. But look at that, so much better. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and work on the placement of these legs and where they need to go. So as you can see, I pushed them in pretty much all the way in the body, because when a bird is in flight, their legs are tucked in, so you really don't see the legs at all. This way, they are ready to carry our little zombie knapsack. Seal him with my triple thick glaze from Rust-Oleum that I love. Rust-Oleum, if you ever see this, please give me an endorsement and send me all your products so I can try them. You'll see that once you seal the glitter, that has a really high gloss to it, and it gives it this really cool, cohesive look. And just to show you what I did on the top here is that I went ahead and inserted an eye hook, a pretty thick one, supported that with some hot glue, and I spray painted them black. I didn't have black, I just had regular silver ones, so I spray painted them black with the satin paint, and I added this chain, which is for plant hanging baskets. Now I have my baby all laid out, facing what I think will be the right direction, so he'll face front. So I'm taking where this is knotted and splitting it in the middle approximately. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wires that are here, wind them around the fabric, keeping the fabric sort of in between all of the talons. So I'm going to go ahead, take that wire. I hope you can see what I'm doing, and wind that around so that all of that is really secure. We now have our Croven secured to the baby, so the baby can swing as he's being delivered.